tare ture Mangalam Shri Mahapani Swaha Om tare ture Mangalam Shri Mahapani Swaha Om tare ture Mangalam Shri Mahapani Swaha. Hello everyone, and thank you for joining Lama Live, the monthly event of Lama Sultrim Alione that brings us together across continents and time zones. Hello, hello. Whether you're tuning in live or watching the recording, welcome. I'm Dreame, connecting with you from Poland, and it's such a pleasure to be here with you today. I hope April has been kind to you and that you've been able to maintain your meditation practice or other commitments. At Taramandala, we are committed to being a welcoming, open, and safe community for practitioners and students of all cultures, races, religions, genders, sexual orientations, age, ability, and circumstances. As you may know, Lama Sultrim Alione is still in her 2-month-long retreat, so let's take a moment to send her our warm thoughts as she continues it. In her absence, we are fortunate to be joined by 2 remarkable women, each bringing unique expertise. First, let me introduce Dr. Elissa Epel, an international expert in stress, well-being, and optimal aging. She is a best-selling author of The Telomere Effect and her latest book, The Stress Prescription. Dr. Epel is a professor in the Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Sciences at the University of California, San Francisco, where she serves as the Vice Chair of Psychology and leads the UCSF Aging Metabolism Emotions Center. Her work focuses on how meditation, positive stress, and other psychosocial and behavioral factors can influence aging. She also addresses the critical topic of climate wellness. Joining her is Dr. Diana Hill, a clinical psychologist, renowned author, speaker, podcaster, and consultant. Diana specializes in acceptance and commitment training, guiding individuals and groups to develop psychological flexibility. Her work helps people stay present, adapt, and thrive, even when faced with significant challenges. With these 2 fantastic speakers, we're in for a session that's not only insightful, but could also spark some real change. Gatherings like this are often where new ideas take root. So let's make the most of it. Let's listen, learn, and connect with each other. Before we begin, let's raise bodhicitta, a heartfelt intention to be together for the benefit of all beings. Knowing the heart essence of my being and that of all beings, to be primordially awake and manifesting a ceaseless compassion, I cultivate the intention to practice and be together in order to single-handedly place all living beings, my parents, in the state of the Great Mother. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being here today, all of you. Enjoy the event, and let's see what this gathering brings. Over to you, Elissa and Diana. Thank you.
What a amazing way to welcome us all together in this really worldwide Sangha. I love Lama Live. I especially love the comments where we can interact. So I have been on Lama Live several times, and I'm so delighted to bring you Diana Hill. This is her first time, we're going to really focus on some ideas and practices, and we're going to leave plenty of time for Q&A. So we gather here globally. Oh, I would love to know where you're all logging in from. It's always just a delight to connect us and think of you geographically, where you're sitting. Where are we sitting? We are sitting here in the state of California, and we want to acknowledge and recognize the painful history upon which the state of California was created, as many places with structures that continue to oppress and erase Indigenous people and their wisdom. And also acknowledge the work ahead of us, which is for restoration of ecological balance and environmental justice, which requires both honoring and following Indigenous wisdom and knowledge to regain a stable climate. We have lost our ways. We have become so disconnected. Here we are with all of our technological advances that have brought us so many benefits, as well as disconnection from the land, from each other, from our bodies, to such an extent that we have really understood that the state of the world, the polycrisis that we're in, can be understood as having some common psychological causes. And it comes down to us losing our sense and our understanding of interconnection and how we need to honor that in our lives. So we're going to be talking about, in this age of information overwhelm, of divisiveness, how to regulate our nervous system and how to think more clearly with discernment and widen our aperture so that we can also be more stable in this unstable world. So with that, I will turn it over to Diana, who will help us land in our body. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Elissa. Thank you, Dreama. It's wonderful to hear and read all of the chats that are coming in, all the places from Netherlands and Germany and New Mexico. And I'm in Santa Barbara, which is the land of the Chumash, and I'm sitting in a beautiful oak grove here, which is also a really stabilizing force, at least for me, at home. And the practice that I would love us to open with comes from Thich Nhat Hanh, who is my root teacher. It's a practice of a very simple mantra that's in English, or a gatha is how he would describe it. I'll be guiding us through the practice, both for ourselves and then also as we connect with each other. And it's helpful as you practice this to be in a position where you can sit or stand or walk with your focus inward. So if you're driving, you can keep your eyes open during this practice, but it's also lovely to do with your eyes closed. So begin by finding yourself in a position where you can notice yourself connecting with the ground and connecting with the world around you, maybe just the intimate world and the space that you're in, the sounds of the space that you're in, but also the extended world around you, the sounds, maybe far away sounds. And connecting with your slow, long breath, your body being breathed. Arriving here with this very simple mantra. Breathing in, you can say silently to yourself, I have arrived. Breathing out, I am home. Breathing in, I have arrived, really allowing your body to arrive here. Letting go of the moments before this moment, the moments after this moment, arriving. And breathing out, I am home. Coming back home to the present, back home to yourself. Breathing in, arrived. Breathing out, home. And also acknowledging that we arrive here together and that we share this home of our planet. We share it with all sentient beings. So breathing in, we have arrived. We arrive together in this present moment. And breathing out, we are home together. Breathing in, we have arrived. And breathing out, we are home. And keeping that connection to yourself, your own homecoming, our connection to each other, coming home to each other in the present moment, you can gently bring your awareness back into this space. So Elissa is going to speak to us about some of the challenges that we're facing collectively. And the reason why I chose that mantra or that gatha in particular is because one of the places for us to begin in facing difficulty is with our own selves, with our own nervous systems, our own bodies, and how we can come back home to and regulate our nervous system so that we can have the capacity to be with discomfort. And that particular mantra has some really beautiful, not only lineage behind it of Thich Nhat Hanh being a refugee, finding his home wherever he went. He went to France in exile, and he still was able to cultivate a sense of home within himself and a community, a place for many people to come. But also it has a lot of science behind it in the slowing down of our breathing, which activates our vagus nerve. It activates our social engagement system when we can feel safe within our bodies, as well as the sounds. And as we know, sounds like have another capacity to activate that vagus nerve, so that sense of home. And sometimes we don't have a physical home that is safe to be in, but if we can cultivate a home within ourselves and a home for each other, then we are cultivating a more secure, safe place to relate to one another in. So that's sort of some of our goal today, is to have conversations of what it means to be able to be in a as safe and regulated space as possible, even in the face of many of our challenges that we collectively face.
Beautiful. Diana, thank you so much. I feel differently than I did 5 minutes ago. It's beautiful how quickly our mind and body respond to these suggestions and how quickly we can change pretty much everything about our breathing and our autonomic nervous system, increasing the parasympathetic activity. So I wanted to start with a question for you all. And the question is simply, what do you feel weighing on you? And so our personal well-being is permeable. It doesn't stop at our skin and is not just based on what is in our personal lives and relationships, but rather we are so globally connected. We see news every day or many times a day if we're checking more. And so our personal ease is shaped by our diet, our exposures in our local life and in our media life. And so I would love to just hear a few words from each of you. What are you feeling? And you can include several levels: home, work, community, global news. What is making you feel unease right now? So I'll start with mine. I have the ongoing, the daily grind of deadlines and responsibilities that keep me in a busy state or a rushed state. And I also am reading too much news and am very, whether I'm acknowledging it or not consciously, I feel it has gotten under my skin. It has affected my sleep. The amount of change, and particularly the wars going on, and the divisiveness, the being on a side and not understanding um, multiple views, multiple truths. There's so much uh, deep moral distress right now from people feeling that others are not listening and they're not seeing their view. Thank you for sharing in this chat. Challenging situations of family, challenging world news. It feels like too much. The possibility of fascism in the United States, the wars, Ukraine, Gaza, global news, personal strains, finances, sickness, grief, loss, children's health, children's well-being. This is one of parents worrying about their children is one of the most common worries right now based on surveys in the US. The youth mental health is something that is not fully in our control. We can't control the exposures and the culture that our youth are growing up in. We can try. We do our best. So what happens when we are in this multi-layered environment of personal and global stress is that our nervous system can so easily get overloaded and overwhelmed. And this leads to a lack of clarity and numbness, not knowing our emotions, thinking more simplistically in black and white. So when we have threat stress, it shapes how we think, and what makes us different from other animals is that we have metacognition. We are able to reflect on our mind and see how it works. And of course, for this group as practitioners, this is a skill you have valued and cultivated, watching thoughts, understanding these are just thoughts, naming feelings, increasing our ability to know how we feel, not just stress, a survival state, but what emotions are telling us about what we need to do, why we're feeling stressed. So we have this beautiful ability, and awareness, developing our meta awareness involves these checking in states. And the practice of meditation is, of course, the uber tool, the way we can develop this. Now, stress causes the opposite. It actually constricts and narrows our ability to have metacognition. Our attention gets very narrow, and we also lose our ability to have integrative creative thinking. And so this is good if we're being chased by a predator, but this is a very narrow and limiting way to live that has affected how we interact with each other and how we can really understand the world around us. So I think one of the ways of thinking about this is that our nervous system has a range of optimal function, and this has been called the window of tolerance, where we can tolerate so much stress, and a bit of stress can be good for us, energizing, help us be creative, feel challenged. But when we get out of that healthy range, we either get on hyperarousal, and we can have those problems with really seeing truth and reality, or we get hypoarousal, where we get numb, sluggish, and we just lose engagement with what's happening in the world. So one of the tools that I would love to do with us today together is so simple and so important. And that is just taking a pause, a mindful pause to reset, not just our body, but actually reset our thinking and loosen and widen up our aperture. Another, yes. So why don't we start with shifting our breathing in a dramatic way. Now, a mindful pause can simply start with noticing our breathing. So we can close our eyes and just notice the rate of breathing. I had you recall the heaviness in your life. So your breathing might be a little more faster, choppier. Now, I'm going to have us do a more dramatic reset. This is called the physiological sigh. It's a trendy way to breathe. I love it when mind-body practices become trendy. So this is just, we're going to breathe in 3 times fully, and then let it out fully with pursed lips, fully and with a longer exhalation. But we're going to breathe in twice. So we're going to do it like this. So do this with me 3 times. We're inhaling all the way to the top, and then again, a bit more, as much as we can, and then letting it all out slowly. So let's begin. Breathing in, again, and out. Big exhale through the nose, and again, and all the way out with a long, slow exhale through pursed lips. Inhale, again, and exhale. So this is a quick way to really change our breathing physiology and our blood chemistry within seconds. And once we've done some mindful breathing and maybe this physiological sighing, then we can check in with our body and just ask what's present. What sensations are present? What emotions might be lurking or might be arising? And in this mindful pause, we have this moment of greater awareness with ease, greater ease in our body. And we can take this mindful pause as well as a way to slow things down and be discerning about information that is emotionally upsetting or triggering. And whether this is from a conversation, a relationship, or from the news, we can ask ourselves some questions. We can ask, is this information true? What is its source? Is it real? Is it worthy of my time and attention right now? Can I do anything about this situation right now? Or can I let it go in this moment? Put the baggage down. If this is something important to me, can I make a plan to learn more without time pressure? Focusing on our breathing, we can let ourselves exhale with a longer and fuller exhalation, noticing stillness or silence at the end of the breath. We can open our eyes and just label this few minutes as a mindful pause. We have the power to slow things down, to find stillness in the chaos, and to be discerning with the information overload that we may be feeling. Diana and I are teaching a class for undergraduates and graduates at the UC system at many campuses. So I'm in the San Francisco campus. Diana's teaching this in the Santa Barbara campus. And our young adults are being bombarded by information. And much of it is emotional information, and it's very triggering. And I'm not just talking about the current war, but really they're living in a medium of information overload that is that they're used to. They've grown up with this, and it makes it hard for them to realize that they're in an information bubble and that their attitudes and beliefs are shaped by their curated social media algorithm. So part of what we've done with them is help explain the science of media, how emotional information is both what we pass on virally, because that's how our mind works, but also that's how the algorithms of social media work, and how we have these self-reinforcing loops so we don't see other information. We get into an information bubble, and the mindful pause can widen our bubble. It can just lead us to be curious and ask questions rather than feel we have to make sense and develop clarity in a rushed way. So Diane is going to talk about how this plays out interpersonally, this stress mind and this inability to really see and understand the feelings and thoughts of others.
Thank you, Elissa, for the mindful pause. And I'm thinking about all the places where that can be useful to us. It can be useful to just maybe when we are feeling dysregulated, to be able to put a mindful pause between our emotions and our actions, right? That impulse to often do one of two things, which are either to shut down, distract, disconnect, which can be useful from time to time. When I was talking with the students in our climate class about how do they deal with the stressors of the world, and they really do feel like they're being handed a future that is impossible to deal with, right? They're really at the front lines of our, what they're being handed. And they said things like, I go and walk around Target, or I just don't talk about it, or I just don't think about it. And that makes sense, right? When you get overwhelmed, you just want to shut it out. However, shutting it out is part of the problem that we're facing, right? We've shut out a lot of the problems of our world, trying not to think about them or not even acknowledge them, and it's not going to solve anything. Mm-hmm. The other side of things that they get into, or that we all get into, is maybe we don't avoid, or sometimes we avoid, but then we swing to the other side, which is we get stuck in being right, or we won't let go of our agenda, or we get entangled in our minds, our stories. And the mindful pause can be helpful of like stepping back, as Thich Nhat Hanh would often say, is like, are you sure? Are you sure? Because when our nervous system is dysregulated, we have this tendency to see things really close up. Mm-hmm. So the question becomes, how do we show up as our wisest selves? And that doesn't mean without emotion. It doesn't mean without acknowledgement of the challenges. I'm reading in here things like chronic pain and hostile environments, and things that are rightfully so causing pain in your life. And we don't want to discount or avoid the pain, but we also don't want it to be all about our pain. There's a line in the work that I do, which is you hurt where you care. And the things that cause the most pain for you are also the things that you care most about. And when we see pain in others, we can also view it through that widened aperture of they hurt where they care too. And when you can identify the care that's underneath the hurt, then you actually have something to work with. You have a caring heart underneath it. If you can get your body into a space that's open, not without discomfort, but enough spaciousness for the discomfort. Alyssa and I were talking yesterday about the example of a cup of water and dropping a little bit of ink into a small glass of water versus dropping a little bit of ink into a large ocean. And when you have more spaciousness, then you can actually act from that place of care. So I'm curious, and we can put this in the chat for all of you, of all the different, maybe the ways in which you personally experience things like avoidance or attachment. And if you notice that within yourself, what you do to avoid and what you do to attach. And sometimes it's very subtle, like very subtle avoidance strategies are things like, looking away from something that causes you a little bit of distress, or maybe shutting somebody's idea down because it's making you uncomfortable. Sometimes with kids, it can be trying to fix it really quickly in your kid or another partner, going straight to fixing. And then with attachment, the ways in which we can engage are maybe not being willing to look at different perspectives, or so quickly coming up with certain types of conclusions. So when we're stuck in these cycles of avoidance and attachment, we suffer because we can't connect as well with our caring heart or with each other. And we also tend to spread threat through our neuroception. So even the other day, I was getting ready in the morning, and my son called me saying, "Mom, come in here." And just the tone of his voice, I knew something was wrong. Like, how often just the tone of voice or just an image can activate our nervous system so that we're going in with our threat system activated. I went in and I was like, "What'd you do to your brother?" Right? Already I was in a blaming space. I had a whole story. And why is our nervous system pick up on that? Because we have histories. I have 14 years with this kid, and 50% of the time it was about his brother, his little brother, right? We have histories, and not only the history of our life, but the history of our ancestors and our lineage that is stored in our cells. And so our nervous system is picking up on these threats and then responding to them. And if we go in without that mindful pause, then we may go in with some misconceptions, some misunderstandings about what's there, and maybe not from our wisest heart. So when you notice that you are dysregulated, the first step is to do what Elissa was teaching us, is to the mindful pause. But the next step is to notice, okay, where is there pain? And what is it that I care about underneath this pain? And also, when you're interacting with another person that is upset or dysregulated, see them too as a human that has experienced pain. And maybe they have something that they care about that's behind that pain. I'd like to do a little practice around this, because it's a practice that you could do with maybe a family member or with a friend, that we're going to be doing imagery around. You can keep your eyes open for this, or it's a practice that you can do if you feel like you're in a space that you have enough of foundation and strength and wisdom of where you're at, that you could do with somebody that has a differing opinion. And in this practice, what I would like for you to do is bring to mind somebody that maybe you have a little bit of a difference with, or a little bit of it's a little bit hot for you in this relationship. Maybe there's a little irritation, or there's a little bit of conflict. Don't go to your level 10 conflict, but something that's maybe a level 5. And starting with yourself, just making contact with yourself, creating that mindful pause of maybe a 2 breath in and a breath out. Helping yourself get into your wisest space through regulating your nervous system. Starting with whatever this conflict is, acknowledging that you hurt because you care. You hurt because you care. What is it that you care about? And maybe not in a cognitive way, just feel it in your body, in your heart, in your wise heart, getting curious. What is it that you care about? And then also in this relationship with this person, can you imagine them also hurting because they care? See their hurt, but also see underneath that they care. There's things that they value. There's things that are important to them. They hurt because they care. And can you feel this common humanity amongst us, between you and this other person, that we hurt just like me? They hurt because they care. Can you find that underlying common humanity? The shared, caring heart. And then ultimately, the practice then becomes, how can we act from this caring space? It doesn't mean getting rid of what hurts, but rather creating that ocean of spaciousness for the hurt to be in it, to include both of us, or to include all of us. How can I act from this caring space in this moment? And sometimes it's helpful to put a hand on your chest, as I'm doing right now, or a hand on your cheek, or a hand on your belly, to make contact with your breathing, with your skin, with yourself in this moment. And then I also like to put another hand up, which is to hold that care for another person. And it's an open hand where there's lots of space for both of us, but just holding them with some compassion as well. I hurt because I care. They hurt because they care. We hurt because we care. And then you can bring your two hands together and coming back. That's a simple practice that you can do as a meditation or a visualization, but it's also a practice that you can do in an engaged, compassionate dialogue, because the compassion is a flow. It's a flow, both having compassion for yourself, but also a flow outward of offering compassion to others and receiving compassion from others. And that's some of the work of Paul Gilbert at the Compassionate Mind Foundation, of really seeing us as interconnected in that way, where we're giving and receiving compassion. And compassion has that really foundational piece of not erasing the hurt. It's actually making contact and moving towards the hurt, but with that wise, open heart. That is what is necessary to care for it. And also with that common humanity, that understanding that when we are at that point of, like my son saying, "Mom, come in here," and I'm coming in worried, it's because I care about something. Obviously, I care about my son. I care about my family, right? And being able to regulate your nervous system to a place to be able to act on that care, and also see how our care impacts each other. Because if you can come in with your wisest self, if you can come in with your most compassionate self, you're much more likely to be able to open the aperture of the space for both of you to be in, and for the other person to hear you as well. So thank you.
So beautiful, Diana. Thank you. So we are going to end with another meditation, but in between we get to hear from you. And so how do these ideas relate to your own experience? And if there's any constructs you'd like us to clarify, please don't hesitate to ask. I'll just use a quote from Thich Nhat Hanh: "When your mind becomes scattered, use your breath to take hold of your mind." And as a stress scientist, there's just so much wisdom in that. We can try to meditate our way out of it, but while we're meditating, or any mind body practice, we're slowing our breath. Our breath becomes more rhythmic. It's an underlying fundamental mechanism of how we find balance, of why mind body practices, including meditation, are healing. So we can start with a practice, or we can also start with our breath.
I also want to add that sometimes we may not get to a completely regulated state, especially when we really care about something, and that all of our emotions have a function and they have important information in them. I have a podcast called The Wise Effort Show, and I interviewed Hector Adamas on it, who works in the area of racial justice and communication. How can we get to a space of complete calm when things are hot? And that actually that heat can be important. Anger can be a really important energy that we can use to motivate action. So that's also something to, sometimes we can almost invalidate each other and ourselves by this expectation that we just need to stay calm, keep calm and carry on. Because sometimes we're not going to feel so calm. But can we expand that window of tolerance? Like, I can be with this discomfort. I'm getting better at being with some discomfort. I'm able to be flexible with it. I'm able to move with it. I'm able to stay present with another person and open-minded even with it. And it might not always be calm.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. There's so much complexity to both our relationship stressors, as well as to the global stressors that we are either living in or witnessing. And what we want is a clear story. We want a clear narrative. We want moral clarity, and that brings us ease and gives us a sense of control. But often we don't have that, and we have to live with uncertainty and moral ambiguity and complexity. And we're not able to use that black and white thinking. And that is advanced coping, is that ability to live in that uncertainty and be okay with it. It's not easy, but it is the reality for where we're at when we're having discerning thinking with a wider aperture. It's often that ability to see many perspectives and to not try to reduce and have a strong opinion about something complex.
One of the things that's really helpful with uncertainty is a mindset of curiosity, because what uncertainty often triggers in us is that we want to seek out certainty. So we go into problem solving, we want to nitpick things and go into the details and figure it out and fix it. And that often can actually make us feel more overwhelmed, because some of these really massive problems are not fixable in the immediate. There's a lot of unknown, and it's going to require a huge systemic collective shift, so we're also not alone in fixing it, right? And the practice of curiosity is one that expands our mind and actually is more like, I don't know, and I'm curious and I want to learn more. And if you've ever been in a relationship and someone comes at you with trying to fix you versus somebody that's curious about you, it feels dramatically different, and it actually feels, it's actually regulating, because curiosity, there's some research that curiosity activates the reward systems of our brain. We want to learn more just for the sake of learning, not for the sake of figuring it out. And we can approach our relationships like that. We can approach our inner world like that. I'm just curious what the person that talked about chronic pain. Just curious about this pain. Where is it in my body? What's it like? Versus I need to fix this pain in my body. There's a question here around moral clarity. It can be very challenging, and yes, to observe the dysfunction of the hurt of all the injustices and maintain balance and an open heart. And curiosity feels more aligned with compassion. Yes, it's very much aligned with compassion. Be able to be with suffering.
Yes, I love these questions. It is a very Lama will probably talk about this when she comes back, but the ability to have universal compassion is an advanced skill. It's very challenging right now. Yet when we feel that there's black and white of a perpetrator, a victim, often we can tune in and recognize that there is suffering everywhere, and in the person who has misbehaved there is often pain, trauma, suffering, the imprints of trauma that shape the present. And so just that awareness of being able to sense into their own suffering even when we're angry with them is incredibly helpful. Back to the being curious, I really do think that the power of asking questions can't be overstated, because we are so used to seeking answers and seeking knowledge that we forget that the real wisdom is in the question we ask, how we shape the question, and what the question is. And I love Krista Tippett has a wonderful podcast called On Being, and she has a focus on how we can live with the question and ask the right question, and then just be open around the curiosity rather than seeking a quick answer. They're not quick answers to most of our important, truly curious questions about our life or how life works. And so she makes the point that the way what we really listen for is answers. How we say, this is the fact, this is what the answer is this. Like that takes all of our attention. We're like, okay, give me some ease here. Give me the answer. And so when we can actually live the question, then we're living with openness, and the answer might not come till years later. And by then we might be onto a different question that we're living with. So, a question now might be, what qualities do I want to discern? How do I want to show up today in a world where we're shown the divisiveness and hate through media? We know that's part of the story. That's what the media shows, but we can't help but feel the chaos and the suffering. And so how do we want to spend our time? What do we want, as Diana said, what do we want to be transmitting? We're emotionally contagious.
I think it's really, that's a really nice point, Elissa, in terms of asking a question that is truly an open question, because oftentimes when we are asking questions, we're asking it with our agenda and our answer in mind that we're trying to pull out of somebody else, or even our agenda and answer in mind of what we're trying to pull out of ourselves. And it really is it's a letting go practice to just put out there the question and be available for the answer to arrive. And sometimes it'll come to us like when we're in nature and we're in places that actually activate that more spacious awareness of our nervous system, asking that question of how do I want to show up? How do I want to be in this world? And going for a walk, or maybe even asking others that question, what's important to you, getting really to the underneath essence of our heart and other people's hearts. And I believe, I believe in hope as a practice, and hope as something that we can cultivate in one another, especially when we have that curious mind, that openness, and that willingness to let go just a little bit. That's another quality of a wise heart, is one that is open and doesn't get so sticky, lets things come and go.
Beautiful. I love in your book, Diana has an amazing new book on self-compassion. It's a journal and workbook, so you're not going to sit and read passively. You're actually going to be engaging in self-inquiry and self-compassion in many different ways. So it's the best book on self-compassion. And one of the key ideas when we feel that we're suffering and feeling pain, and we look at the underlying care and love, Diana has a system of practices for actually living our values and wise effort. And her podcast is called Wise Effort. And it's a fusion of modern psychology and psychological science and Buddhist principles. And so it's mindfulness plus. It's such a brilliant system and way of thinking. So I suggest that you try that, especially if you have a loud inner critic and you know who you are. If you do. Another thing I've been thinking of, Diana, when we think about inquiry, is often our pain or anger toward others is this is binary thinking and black and white thinking, because that's how we think when we feel strongly, when we're emotional. And so just asking, is this, are we at the poles? Are we seeing things in black and white? You're wrong, I'm right. And so how can we, what would be a curious question that you would suggest people to ask when they realize that they're feeling polarized or they're polarizing someone else?
I wonder if there's a way to change the either or to a both and. Like if you could even just take the sentence. So like, for example, I'm anxious or I'm going to go to the party. Like if I'm not anxious, then I'll go, or to the event, right? Or either I'm,
Right.
but it's like I can both be anxious and I can go, right? So I can both feel angry and they can feel angry, or we can both feel angry in this space. So if there's any way to shift it to a both and statement that you can hold, I mean, the nature of a paradox is holding to what appear to be different perspectives together, sort of that more dialectical thinking. Is there a common greater area that can hold them both? But really, and really, when somebody has a different perspective than you, is there a way for you to hold the different perspectives and find a shared common one? That maybe we both care about protecting our families,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe we both care about having a safe home to live in.
Mm-hmm.
And when we can see that, it's like that, those are basic human needs, to feel safe and to feel protected.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe we both care about being seen and heard, even though we have differing perspectives.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. And it was so powerful when in our class we used this to have students feel the common humanity of someone, a stranger in front of them. So this is a beautiful practice you might try. Is you can do it in your head or you can do it with a real person, but really closing your eyes and really feeling into this person. I don't need to know anything about them, but this person also wishes to be well. This person wishes for a loving community. This person has had suffering just like me. This person has values that they care about that have been shaped by their life experience, just like me. And so while our beliefs might be different, understanding this is how we work, we We so believe and in our values and wanting to protect them that maybe the actual ways that we want to implement them or live them out might be different, but those common values of love and caring are universal. So it's a way to, yes.
And it can shift the languaging then that you may use with somebody to using more of the we language. And that's how we started today. I've arrived, I am home, but also we have arrived, we are home. And once we get into that more we type of mindset, which is very much the compassionate mindset, it makes all of us feel a little bit safer. This is what we do in couples therapy. Stop, Terry Real is well known for this. Stop talking about you and me, talk about we. That seeing that just like me, we share the nature of being human, of being sentient beings that feel and that we're children and that are going to grow old and that are going to die. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, that brings us to coming back to arriving again together in our bodies. This has been wonderful. Thank you for those of you who shared your suffering and pain today, and we feel it with you. We are all together as caring beings doing our best. I would like to just ask of each one of you to just put one thing of beauty or joy in the chat. It could be one word, it could be a sentence, something in front of you, something in your day, something that makes you feel warm, hopeful, loving. It could be a furry pet in front of you. I'm big on pets. I have 3 dogs and 1 cat, so I spend a lot of my day in a sensory way, grounding myself with being at the park with them or giving them love, and boy, do they give it back. Thank you so much. We have flowers, freedom, bees. Diana relates to the bees. She's a beekeeper. My mother's food, warm weather, hiking in nature. I hope we all can get out today to see some green. Thank you so much. So let us come together and really feel our presence across these amazing connections we have to be connected to Drime in Poland and all of you in different countries and places. Let us feel our body, this amazing body that we've been given. Feel the contact with our seat, the floor. Feel our breath wherever it is. Breathing in, we have arrived together. Breathing out, we are home. Breathing in, I feel myself as a mountain. Breathing out, I feel solid. Breathing in, I see myself as water. Breathing out, I reflect on things just as they are. Breathing in, I feel free. Breathing out, I am home. Through this wisdom community, through our connections, may we feel at home together and feel our common intentions and love for this planet, for all beings. And may you all feel a sense of ease. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Diana. Thank you, Drime. Thank you, Lama Live, for all of your wise teaching and dedicated effort over decades. We are here because of you, and we are sending you love on your retreat and wishes for your well-being. Diana and I have a request for any of you who want to give Dana today. Donna, we are suggesting it go to the Plum Village brothers and sisters, who we have learned so much from. Much of our teachings today have their source being through Thich Nhat Hanh and his current living students. Thank you.
And their activism in the arenas of peace activism and climate activism as well. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so very much, Diana and Elissa, for taking the time to be with us today and sharing your wisdom and warmth. Thank you. You've given us a lot to reflect on, especially about being kinder to ourselves, more compassionate, and more connected with our bodies. I'm hopeful that many of us, including myself, will put your advice into practice and see where it leads. Thanks again for everything. A special thank you also goes to our audience, our wonderful community, our Sangha, and everyone who is joining us today for the first time. Your presence truly makes a difference. As we wrap up, I encourage you to check out our upcoming online courses, which you can find on our website. There is an array of incredible learning opportunities, including a special chance to receive the Zinpa Rangdro Nundro from Lama Sultrim Alyone during the weekend of May 25th, 26th. And if you are in Europe, we have a variety of enriching in-person programs offered by our senior teachers in Germany, Czech Republic, France, Italy, and the Netherlands. And of course, the doors of our Taramandala Retreat Center in Colorado are open for you with amazing retreats on our sacred land that offer invaluable experiences and connections. Let's now dedicate the merit of our time together. By this merit, may all attain omniscience, may defeat the enemy wrongdoing, from the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death, from the ocean of samsara, may I free all beings. Thank you all for your open heart and mind, for sharing this space and time with us today. May we meet again and again on the path, and may all beings benefit everywhere. Thank you.
Mangalam Shri Mahapani Swaha. Om Tare Tu Re. Mangalam Shri Mahapani Swaha. Om Tare Tu Re. Mangalam Shri Mahapani Swaha. Om Tare Tu